The story begins with a plane struggling through a terrifying storm. Our main character, Chuck, was calmly sitting and using the toilet. Suddenly, the plane's pressure started dropping, causing the toilet door to open and a terrible explosion to occur in the cargo hold. The pilot seated Chuck back in his seat because an emergency landing on the sea was necessary. The pilot told him to buckle up with a life raft. The plane began descending rapidly. At that moment, the plane was about 3,000 meters above the sea. That's when Chuck realized that the pocket watch his girlfriend had given him had fallen. The pilot told him to put on a life jacket, but it was a little far away. Because of the pocket watch, Chuck unbuckled his seatbelt and rolled over to pick it up. But after grabbing the watch and trying to get the life jacket, the plane's angle changed and he could no longer move. Seeing that Chuck was not in his seat, the pilot unbuckled his own safety belt. In the violent turbulence, the pilot was seriously injured. The pilot touched the plane down on the sea surface slowly, but due to a wrong landing, water started entering the cabin. Because his seatbelt was not fastened, Chuck's life was saved. Just then, suddenly the upper part of the plane broke open and seawater started flooding inside. Fortunately, Chuck had an inflatable raft in his hands, but when he tried to open it, a part of the raft got stuck to the plane. The sinking plane started pulling Chuck down with the raft, but Chuck's love held. The rope attached to the raft suddenly tore, and in this way, the life raft pulled him out from the jaws of death. Finally, Chuck reached the surface of the sea safely. He tried with all his strength to climb onto the raft and held the edges tightly, but he slowly started drifting toward the engine, which was still running. Seeing the danger behind him, he immediately closed his eyes. At that very moment, the engine caught fire, and the blast wave threw him back into the sea again. The entire plane slowly sank into the sea with a massive explosion. But the danger was far from over. Chuck not only had to face the violent storm of the ocean, but also endure one giant wave after another. He only held tightly onto the rope of the life raft. How much time passed this way was impossible to tell. Suddenly, the air in the life raft leaked out. Sharp rocks had punctured it. This meant he had finally reached the shore. Summoning his last bit of strength, he dragged the life raft onto the land. The next morning, when the sunlight fell on his face, he realized that he was alive and had drifted onto a small island. But even after surviving death, he felt no relief because he didn't know what dangers awaited him in this unknown place. As he walked, he began to gather scattered items from the plane and started searching the interior of the island to see if there was anyone else there. But looking around, he saw that only endless silence welcomed him. It became clear that he was trapped on an island that didn't even exist on the map of the world. To avoid dying while stranded here, he began thinking of ways to survive. But at that moment, besides writing "help" on the shore as a signal, he had no other effective means. Night soon fell, and he still hoped that some passing boat might see him. But as the night dragged on, his hopes gradually turned into fear, amplified by the surrounding silence. He began to shiver constantly, frightened by the sounds of the terrifying creatures in the jungle. The next day, he used the collected items to create a temporary resting place and began inspecting the broken wreckage of the plane. Now, besides the pocket watch his girlfriend had given him, he had nothing else left that could be of any use. Thinking about the moments he had spent with his girlfriend, he felt even more regret for having boarded the plane.